tonight. A grieving young woman facing eviction is given a few months' reprieve. That story. And
this has become an all too familiar feeling for customers downtown as the area has seen a wave of closures.
Right now it looks pretty grim.
Like we're in a downward spiral.
There's great potential here in St. John's.
Tonight we'll hear from those in the industry about what needs to be done to reverse that trend.
We're forced to live in legislative poverty because of no fault of our own.
Rising rent, food prices, and cost of living, all topics at last night's town hall hosted by the NDP.
It was just such an amazing experience, you know.
We'll take you to Nain. Our CBC crew went there to do some teaching, but ended up learning much more.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. We begin with news from the courts. The Crown is seeking an 18-year sentence for serial sexual abuser Bruce Escott. The 82-year-old pleaded guilty to offenses involving 6 victims spanning 30 years. At a sentencing hearing this morning, Crown and defense argued over what defines a crushing sentence for an elderly offender. Ryan Cook reports.
If the prosecution has its way, Bruce Escott will be in his late 90s by the time he emerges from a federal penitentiary, if he lives to see the day. But Crown Prosecutor Deidre Badcock says that shouldn't sway the judge towards a lesser sentence. Escott, who appeared by video, fed teenagers alcohol, drugs, and money in exchange for sexual acts. And for that, Badcock says an 18-year sentence pales in comparison to the damage he caused those victims. He benefited from them, groomed them, she said, all as a means to satiate his sexual deviancies. This is a predator, Your Honor, and it's someone who's deserving of a significant sentence. It's important to note the prosecution says Escott didn't always act alone. This case also includes his friend and neighbor Tony Humby, who has pleaded not guilty and is set for trial on 72 charges next month. Escott's lawyer raised concerns today that the prosecution is trying to use Escott to set a tough precedent for Humby to follow. Mackenzie Hughes maintains that a 9-year sentence is more appropriate. He says 18 years will be more than even the worst Christian brothers received for the abuse at Mount Cashel. Hughes said, "I think it's common sense that 18 years is a crushing sentence for someone that is 82 years old. That's essentially life in prison." Now, when it came time for Escott to speak, he said, "I'd just like to apologize to the victims. That's it." I turned to the man sitting next to me, who was one of Escott's victims, and he rolled his eyes. Apology not accepted. Judge Phyllis Harris will render her decision on March 4th, which happens to be the second day of Tony Humby's trial. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, we have a correction to a story we brought you earlier this week about the expansion of the Shahjeet Innu School. We incorrectly reported the title of Ganani Davis. She's the CEO of the Innu Education School Board, and we apologize for that error. We have an update now on a story we brought you last month. A young St. John's woman was told to leave her home just 2 months after experiencing a tragic loss. Here Now's Maddie Ryan is live with new developments. So Maddie, what happened?
So for her entire life, Mackenzie Stevenson has lived in St. John's public housing, but she's been on her own since her mother died in November, and she was told to leave by the end of January. Now, just a day after we brought you her story last month, the city reached out to her and said that move-out date was only a suggestion.
Made it pretty evident that I had to be out January 31st, and it wasn't until I went to the media where they then reached out to me and told me that was never the case. We were going to give you a notice on February 1st, which then gives you 3 months.
The 21-year-old was given a notice because she was not out by January 31st. The city claims the lease on her house ended when her mom died, putting Stevenson back on the housing wait list.
It's good to have 3 months, but I'm still wondering what I'm going to do after those 3 months because it's a lot to take in.
The city won't comment on the case due to privacy concerns, but a letter to Stevenson from a St. John's housing manager says, When families move in, we ensure that the home meets their needs based on the number of bedrooms required. While you are correct that there are some tenants in our units who are currently overhoused, those families were placed based on their original needs. There are challenges on both sides of the issue, according to housing advocate Hope Jameson. They say creative solutions, such as allowing roommates, could help.
Evicting people in a situation where it's really difficult to find alternative housing supplies an enormous challenge for everyone across the board right now. So there's some really tricky mechanics happening in there. I think this is the city trying to cover their butt.
The province's NDP leader says the Residential Tenancies Act should be updated.
The residential tenancies is extremely cumbersome. It is complaint driven. And the onus is upon the person filing the complaint. And if it's one thing, if you're the landlord with a lot of deep pockets and you've got a legal team behind you, it's quite a different thing if you're, again, a 21-year-old or a person who is vulnerable.
At this point, I just give up. I hope the city takes this as an example to clearly state things to people when they're calling, talking about a problem, whether it's terminal illness or just simply adding somebody to the lease. They should fully explain this, because I know for a fact they did not explain this to my mom. So, if anything, I just hope they learn from it.
Stevenson is a full-time university student, and she works 2 part-time jobs on the side. In her free time, she's looking for a new apartment because she doesn't have a place to live once April ends. Maddie Ryan, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services is holding a clinic next weekend to deal with an ongoing syphilis outbreak in Labrador. This after the Provincial Health Authority declared an outbreak in September and confirmed 69 cases. That's compared to only 16 cases in the Labrador-Grenville region in the past 10 years. The event will take place at the Labrador Health Clinic in Happy Valley Goose Bay from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on February 15th. Well, to St. John's now, where a number of downtown businesses have shut down in recent months, and we've told you about some of those closures here on the show, and it brought up questions about why these closures are happening and what can be done to stop it. Here now's Henrika Wilhelm reports.
This is one of at least a dozen businesses here in the downtown of St. John's that have shut down over the past few months. Half of them alone, just like that one, on Water Street.
To see businesses at this volume close their doors is very concerning.
Several of them shared what led them here, and experiences were similar.
There's lots of different factors, but the big one is just our economic environment, our climate that we live in today.
It became less likely that we were ever going to get our investments out of the property.
Everything has gone up essentially, and we are not able to pass that on to the consumer anymore.
It's hard to keep everything going with cost of food, cost of everything really.
Cold comfort? Businesses in the city aren't alone in this. Across the country, almost 50% more restaurants declared bankruptcies in the first 8 months of last year compared to the same period in 2023. Despite not one, but 2 locations in the city, the owners of Piatto Pizzeria feel it too. Lingering impacts of the pandemic, rising costs.
Sales are down and costs are up. Every expense in the restaurant has gone up, from wages to flour costs, transportation costs, heat, light, everything has gone up. So you've got less sales, you've got more expenses, so you got a poor bottom line. Most restaurants have lost money or just broken even for the last 2 or 3 years. A bag of flour went from $50 a bag to $150 a bag. The price of our cheeses all doubled, our meats.
And that upward trend likely won't stop anytime soon. Numbers released in the Food Prices Report, a joint project by universities across the country, show that food prices in the province rose by almost 4% in 2024 and are predicted to see another increase above the national average this year. But recent closures of independent retailers downtown and even nightclub Velvet indicate it's a larger issue beyond the food service industry. Those closures come on top of an already high vacancy rate for downtown, which was at 31% last summer compared to 20% in Halifax and 15.5% in Fredericton. Industry experts agree something needs to change before it's too late. And they come with ideas.
I don't think it's just about, someone like me who doesn't work downtown, but it's also the workers and making sure that the office buildings are priced accordingly and making landlords accountable so that they can open up their shops. So ultimately, you want people who are living downtown, you want to have people working downtown, and you want to also have people who are consuming downtown as well.
Communities have proven that they can reverse the trends, and that's what we need to do right now.
At City Hall, the mayor says those solutions are underway to tackle cleanliness, safety concerns, and a change in the makeup of downtown.
Once more people are living there, that brings about the amenities and gives a better market for businesses to operate in. So we know of 3 or 4 projects that are in the planning stages now. People looking at options that they have, business people, on how they can develop in the downtown. And I think that's the catalyst we'll need to bring about our resurgence in the downtown.
About the details, though, he's staying mum. At Piatto, Vallis has some more ideas, like an extended HST break from the feds, a provincial loan program, or a city tax holiday, with the money used to beautify the area. And overall, collaboration from all levels to make sure 2025 is looking up.
Help us kind of figure out other creative solutions. That's what it's going to take to ensure that we don't continue to see the pace of closures that we are experiencing right now. Our community will look vastly different 12 months from now if we don't provide some sort of support and relief for businesses within the province.
And while it might not look like it today, they also warn that the tourist season is coming up quick. That, plus the city hosting the Canada Games, means reviving downtown is becoming even more urgent. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, housing, food insecurity, and support for seniors were among the main topics of an NDP town hall in St. John's last night. Julia Israel brings us more of what people had to say.
I live in Newfoundland and Labrador housing, and I'm on income support. I got my T5 today. I made just over $13,000 for the entire year.
Food, housing, rising costs of living are spreading Tina Han and her family thin.
We have to support a family of 3. I'm disabled, my husband's disabled, my child has disabilities. We are forced to live in legislative poverty because of no fault of our own.
Han's story is sadly a familiar one these days.
There's a good chance here that within this room there are people who have accessed a food bank more than once in a year. You're not alone. That's the thing about this. You're not alone.
Across the country, food insecurity is rising, but research says Newfoundland and Labrador is the province that struggles the most.
1 out of every 11 or so people in this province are severely food insecure, which is a fancy way of saying you're going hungry, right? And that is the highest rate of severe food insecurity of any province in this country. So we have a big hill to climb, right? And
living on income support, a common situation for people with reduced mobility and the province's aging population.
I'm one of the people who recently had another $150 increase in rent. A year ago I had $150 a month increase in rent. I'm a single person living by myself. I'm retired, senior, back to work. And that's how I do it.
But fixing the growing issue isn't easy. Some solutions discussed last night were ideas like basic income and rent control, more benefits for seniors, and housing co-ops. Julia Israel, CBC News, St. John's.
I've had another cold day for most of us this afternoon, but we've got our next weather maker moving in. Things are going to start snowy, but some warm air is going to move in as we head through tomorrow. So we'll see that snow move in through the overnight. It will change over to rain into the afternoon. And then watching the next system for the weekend. We're looking at potentially a significant snowstorm, but we'll get into all of those details a little later in the show.
When people in coastal Labrador want to know what's happening in their communities, they tune into O'Halagatikit Society. Last week, some of our colleagues took a trip to Nain to do some training with the station, but as you'll see, it was our CBC crew that got a learning experience.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Achi Hangidok program for today. My name is Peter Dicker, and I'll be your host now until 3 p.m. At 1:30, I'll be airing the O'Halagatikit news, and at 2:30, you'll hear from Jason Dicker about the polar bear licenses. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Hi, my name is Nancy Nukasuk, and I'm a radio producer here at O'Halagatikit Society. So O'Halagatikit Society is a broadcasting company where we do the radio 6 days a week. And the TV production. They have a show on APTN. We do shows both in English and Inuktitut. We get stories for people to access to get more connected with their community, and it's also a way for people to connect with their culture.
Hi, my name is Rivu Rashid. I host Labrador Morning up here in Labrador. I'm stationed in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. I started hosting Labrador Morning 18 months ago. And for the whole time, I've been talking about the people of the North and their lifestyle and their stories. You know, you're talking about someone, you have no idea how they live. It was so important for me to see this in person.
We're lucky enough to have the CBC crew to be here at O'Halagatikit. They're helping us with the training, and it's a lovely experience to have you guys here.
Now you want to make sure you can get close enough to me or extend your arm, exactly.
Who's here right now is like Zach Gowdy.
So it's literally in here.
Amy Joy.
Isn't that the cutest thing you've ever seen?
Right? Like it's something as simple as that.
Adam Welch and Rivu Rashid.
Luciak Peter, good afternoon. The start of 2025 polar bear season is getting close. We, of course, did the training with the OK Society Radio. Other than that, we visited the local schools. And what should I say? It was just such an amazing experience, you know.
Are you ready to sing to them? Yes! Wait, stand up, please. Ready? Ready, set, go.
Grade 3 students actually prepared a song for us that's called Labradori Mute, which means Sounds of Labrador. So when we visited the school, we saw the excitement, how excited they were to meet CBC personalities. And for me, like, you know, I have this little trick that I pulled out. My Rubik's Cube thing that I did when I was of their age.
How do he do that? Watch it.
Just to see how much our work affects people, what it means for them, and that also reminded me why this trip was so needed and why we had to come here and visit the people in person. Because yeah, so many people I've talked with them over the phones multiple times, 3 or 4 times, but I never saw their face. They never saw me how I look like. They thought I'm a big guy, probably 6'4", 6'5". You can show me like just a tiny guy from Bangladesh, 5'4", and they didn't expect me look like this. But finally, they can put a face to the name and to the voice. I think that's the best part.
It's just an amazing experience. Like, I'm learning how to do interviews. I'm like my intros and outros for the radio. I'm very new to it, and I want to get better. And it's just, I've already seen improvement since you guys have been here. And it's just, I'm very thankful.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped? Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Chaji, Inuk First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, Ashley, for people out there who may be wondering about January, it certainly felt like a really mild month, milder than usual. You have some numbers for us, right?
Yeah, and it certainly was. In fact, we saw, some of the warmest temperatures within the last 5 years for parts of the province. Let's take a look at what's going on. So all of us saw temperatures well above where we should be sitting for January. And Happy Valley Goose Bay actually tied for your warmest January on record. And everybody except Stephenville and Port aux Basques were in the top 5 for your January. So definitely a warm start to the year that also led to more rain and less snow, which was evident, but we're certainly starting to add to that with temperatures much colder than they have been up across parts of the entire province. February started quite cold. -6 right now in St. John's, feels more like -13 up across Labrador. Temperatures are in the minus teens as well, with your wind chills in the minus teens and 20s. And this is going to continue as we head through tonight. This is very different, though, than what we saw yesterday. Temperatures are anywhere from 3 to 8 degrees warmer than last night, and then even up across Labrador, 2 to 8 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. So right now, we are seeing basically just some increasing cloud for the most part, some flurries happening on the west coast, and even parts of the Avalon, we're seeing some flurries, as you can see there. This will generally continue as we head through the night tonight with clouds on the increase, because our next weather maker is moving in, and that one already prompting quite a few warnings. Blowing snow advisory for the northern peninsula with a snowfall warning along the strait. And then we've got a wind warning in effect for most of the west coast and the Wreck House area, and then the northern Avalon as well. This is going to be the story as we head into tomorrow morning, especially for those of you on the west coast. But for tonight, quiet weather. Just that snow will move in. Temperatures are starting very cold, -4 to -10 across most of the island and Labrador, minus teens and minus 20s. And again, this will start as snow. So I put the wind on there for you just to show you when those winds will pick up. So we will see the snow move in through the overnight. Most of us will be seeing that across Labrador and then across the island. By the time we get into 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, though, that will change over to rain for those of you along southern areas of the island. And this is also when we're going to see some gusty winds. Those of you that are prone to southeasterlies on the west coast will see those gusts mainly 80 kilometers per hour, but those that are prone to southeasterlies will be seeing gusts about 120 kilometers per hour. And that will be the story for the Wreck House area as well. Now, right across the board, we will be seeing those winds between 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, but in the afternoon tomorrow, especially for the northern Avalon, we'll be seeing those winds gusting as high as 100. Now, for the northern peninsula, southeastern Labrador, you're going to stay as snow through this system, but along with some gusty winds, you will be seeing that blowing snow, hence that blowing snow advisory. So we'll see that rain end by the time we get into the afternoon. For the west coast, south coast, we're going to continue to hang on to that rain through the afternoon east, but temperatures will drop in behind that, and we will see some snow again develop, as is typical, at least this year anyway, on the backside of that system to see those temperatures drop along with some snow in the forecast, and then eventually those winds will ease as we head into the morning hours on Saturday. Now, as far as snowfall amounts go, most of the snow will be for the Northern Peninsula, Southeastern Labrador, Northern Peninsula, somewhere between 10 to 15. Some pockets are higher than that for sure. And then along the Strait between 15 to 20 centimeters. Otherwise, you could pick up a quick 5 to 10 for those of you on the West Coast before we see that changeover, and a lot less further east. There's your daytime highs tomorrow, 4 to 7 degrees. So definitely we will see a lot of melting happening. And then for the Northern Peninsula, you're going to hang out around 0 or even 2 degrees through the afternoon. Southeastern Labrador, you're also getting into some unseasonably warm temperatures. You'll still stay below 0 though, -1 in Mary's Harbour, -2 in Cartwright. And then for the west and the north, you're still looking at your temperatures dipping or staying in the minus double digits with those winds out of the northwest between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. So this is one. We've got another one coming as we head into Sunday, Monday. This one looks like we could see quite a bit of snow with that, but I'll break that down for you coming up a little later.
Hi everyone, I'm Jane Adey, host of Land and Sea. Tune in this Sunday for a brand new show. This one is all about growing vegetables in Newfoundland and Labrador, which, as many of you know, can be very challenging. But these days, many farmers are getting a helping hand, a way to get a step ahead of Mother Nature.
Most of the plants we put on our plates begin as seeds. It was the seed of an idea that would grow to help farmers like Kent Fudge, an idea that began at a tree nursery.
I'm grabbing a few more trays.
Adam Lee manages a team of more than 40 government employees who together produce more than 6 million baby trees a year. That work has been going steady since 1974. But in 2017, the Provincial Department of Forestry merged with the Department of Agriculture. That prompted a fresh look at the facility. And that's when the germ of an idea took root. If the center could nurture baby trees, why not baby vegetables too?
It was realized that there are periods of the tree production cycle that there are greenhouses actually empty. And so we saw an opportunity at that time to establish the vegetable transplant program.
With the transplant program, if you put in transplants, the plant's already grown. Half your battle is conquered already. So besides that, there's a field in right there now that we put in transplants 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the leaves are 3 and 4 inches big already.
So that's a show we've called Farmer's Favor, and you can catch that this Sunday at 11:30. That's 11 o'clock in most of Labrador. If you happen to miss it on Sunday, you can always see it on Monday right after Here and Now. And if you'd like to watch online, you can see it on CBC Gem or on CBC Newfoundland and Labrador's YouTube channel. So watch for Farmer's Favor coming up this Sunday. We'll see you then.
The miners are family, and they have to take care of each other.
It's truly an honor as a Newfoundlander to be able to go out there and bring back a representation of all the Newfoundlanders that weren't able to come back.
Love the world around you because it does shimmer with the impossible sometimes made possible.
Well, February is recognized as Black History Month in Canada. It's a time to recognize the history and achievements of the Black community. But this year, the celebration is punctuated with a major shift in policy south of the border.
We're going to stop the destructive and divisive diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And President Donald Trump did just that on his first day in office, scrapping federal DEI programming and calling the practice dangerous, demeaning, and immoral. Laura Bell Mba is an anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant here in St. John's, and we spoke with her about how she feels about this shift in policy as we begin Black History Month.
I recently made a post about how the use of DEI has now been co-opted to just mean Black. It is no longer meaning diversity, equity, and inclusion, which stands for the representation of a lot of people: women, marginalized folks who have disabilities, those who are racialized as a whole, those with neurodivergent disorders, everything. There's a lot of people that fit under the scope of diverse. But now that just means Black. Every time they go up and they say it, first it was woke, first it was affirmative action, and then it was critical race theory, all of ways to say Black. So when I see the rollback of policies that go as far back as the civil rights movement, I'm trying to understand what the goal is, what the end goal will be, because DEI is blamed for a lot of the things that we're seeing happening south of the border, even here in Canada. But DEI isn't what's responsible for all of those things. So it's important that people realize that when you think diversity, it might just mean the woman sitting across from you. It doesn't have to mean racialized. It doesn't always mean someone with a disability that you can see. It might just be a woman in a male-dominated industry. Here, DEI now, it's no longer, okay, something we're working towards, something we're proud of. It's like, oh, that thing again. And it's so unfortunate, because if you look at the real impact that has been made when we prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, you have seen great moves in society. You see representation for individuals who were formerly left on the sidelines. You see greater socioeconomic standing. And it's just so unfortunate to see it be pulled away piece by piece, and everyone waking up each morning being like, am I on the chopping block? There's the famous saying is, first they came for this group of people, and then they came for the next, and then when they came for me, no one said anything. That's what we're leading towards. First, they're coming for racialized, they're coming for immigrants, they're coming for people with disabilities, they're coming for the 2S LGBTQ community. Who's going to be left? The optimist in me, and cautiously optimistic, says at every point when society has tried to marginalize groups even further, you get a revolution. You get community banding together to say, not now, not us, this is enough. And I'm hoping that with all this attempted repeal of civic liberties, that we're going to see community say it. No, we're going to band together, and if you won't do it for us, even though you are our elected officials and this is your role in government, we will do it for ourselves, because this is not the first time these groups have been marginalized, and they don't go away. We are a resilient group of individuals, and yes, we're usually categorized as marginalized, but we are equity deserving. Not that we don't have, we are resilient, we are resourceful, we are strong people, and it is important that at this time when we have these loud voices, they aren't that many of them, they're just really loud, saying that you're not worth it and you aren't valuable. Your community says that you are, and that you band together and you provide for each other and you take care of your neighbors, you take care of your friends, and we can see that in a global sense, not just the people across the street from us. My focus for this year for Black History Month is actually Black joy and Black stories. For a lot of the time when we think about Black history, we think about the struggle, which is very much true. We think about slavery, we think about the resilience. But my focus this year on two perspectives is, each year I take on a personal project for Black History Month on how I'm going to celebrate it. And so for this year, for the 28 days, I'm sharing Black authors who are a global thing. So talking about stories from afar far as Nigeria and Ghana and Jamaica and Barbados, where these authors tell their own stories. We focus on women authors, queer authors, authors with disabilities, and then young authors who are dreaming of the future of what the Black experience is like. And then there's a call out that I put out to the youth within Newfoundland and Labrador who happen to be Black to tell me what it means to be Black for you, what Black History Month means for you as someone between the ages of 16 and 30 in our province. What does a day look like for you? Share it with me. And people have asked, what are you thinking you're going to get? And I'm not thinking anything. I want people to show me what it means for them, because we have this general belief that we know what someone else is going through. I don't want to assume where you find joy, especially if you're located in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. What I find joy in here in St. John's would be very different. If you like a boil up and to go skiing, that is not my joy, but that could be your Black joy. So I want them to show me what is working for them. And if things aren't, to be comfortable enough to say, this is where I'm having struggles. Because usually when history is told, it's told by the adults. And we always have that saying that the youth are the future. Well, I want to know what the youth has to tell me and how they feel about it.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has doubled down on his shocking proposal to take over the Gaza Strip. We brought you that and local reaction to his statements last night. Well, in a new social media post, he says the enclave would be turned over to the U.S. by Israel after fighting ends and the Palestinians are relocated. As Sasha Petrusik reports, it looks like the Israeli government is getting ready to hit go on that plan.
There's a lot of excitement here over the way that the new U.S. administration and the Israeli government have been coordinating their interests. For instance, the Israeli government withdrew from the United Nations Human Rights Council. Israel has accused it of being anti-Israel, saying that Israel will no longer tolerate the council's blatant anti-Semitism. This follows on the footsteps of the U.S. also pulling out from this same body just a few days ago. This came with criticism from the United Nations, from the UN Special Rapporteur for Palestinian Rights, Francesca Albanese, who said it shows Israel's self-righteousness and that they just simply don't want to be accountable for their human rights transgressions. Now, the other issue, which the government here is in lockstep with Donald Trump, is this idea of emptying Gaza of Palestinians, 2 million people, afterwards handing Gaza over to the United States. The defense minister ordered the military to draw up plans for moving Gazans who want to voluntarily leave somewhere else, by air, by sea, by land. Many of the hardline settler parties here are also very excited. They have had plans to move into Gaza and to settle the territory themselves for some time. As far as the Gazans are concerned, they say they are not going anywhere.
He should know that we will not leave our country, and he should delete this idea of his mind out.
And of course, hanging over all of this is the question of the ceasefire. It is continuing. More hostages who were taken on October 7th, 2023 from Israel. More of those are supposed to be released this week. But this is a very fragile ceasefire, one that may not last long enough for all the hostages to be released. And in fact, the whole area may still go back to war in just a few weeks. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
And Donald Trump's tariff threats continue to create worry and work at all levels of government. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with the mayors of major Canadian cities to talk about the Team Canada approach to the new U.S. administration, one day after Trudeau's latest tariff talks with the premiers. Kate McKenna reports.
The Prime Minister reiterated again today Canada's got a plan to stay resilient against Donald Trump's tariff threat.
We're doing more than just bracing ourselves.
He spoke to the mayors of Canada's big cities, who say they play an important role on Team Canada.
We are the engines of growth and innovation and opportunity. And at times, like these times of uncertainty, it is cities, not only the provinces and the federal government, but it is cities that must take action.
They're talking about diversifying trade and knocking down interprovincial trade barriers.
We're convening provincial and territorial leaders to do the vital work of breaking down the barriers that hamper interprovincial trade.
But the government won a 30-day tariff reprieve by promising to crack down on illegal drugs and migrants crossing the border, including a proposal to appoint a fentanyl czar sometime soon.
I see this person as a person building relationships with the United States, a person building relationships with Mexico, and I see this person as just a conduit where everything that's being done from a government, a federal government perspective, flows up to this person, who then is in a better position to brief the Prime Minister or Cabinet.
The fentanyl czar's role will be to help us integrate what is a whole of society challenge.
Some, including NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, question whether the border is what's really behind Trump's tariff threat.
What Trump, though, is really about, and it is very clear, he is about making Canada the 51st state. That is what he is about. He has made that very clear. We don't need to guess about what his intentions are. He has repeated it.
Canadian premiers are heading to Washington next week. They'll be meeting with American lawmakers and trying to convince them that tariffs are a bad idea. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, earlier in the show, Ashley told us about the warmer than average temperatures in January in this province, and it's not just here. The European Climate Agency says Earth broke another heat record in January. According to the agency, the month was, on average, slightly warmer than January of last year.
We are seeing the impacts of climate change on extreme heat. We're seeing it on extreme rainfall. We're seeing it on sea level rise and storm surges if you're in a coastal area. We're seeing it in wildfire.
The biggest contributors to global warming are emissions from fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas. Some parts of the Canadian Arctic saw January temperatures 30 degrees warmer than average. It marks the 18th month of the last 19 the world either hit or crossed the internationally agreed upon limit, which was set at 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial times.
look at that one over there.
Is this good?
Yeah, a little bit more. That felt good.
Therapeutic almost. There's a wrestling ring down there. What's that about?
A lot of... This is wild.
Well, Sean Panting loves to be put under pressure, and we love the songwriter's witty takes on current affairs.
Yeah, and with all the back and forth between Canada and the United States over tariffs and borders, it's starting to feel a bit like a breakup.
It does. So we called up Sean to get his hot take put to song, and this time the troubadour was inspired by a Tammy Wynette classic. Have a listen.
Now you hold your elections and you made your choice, that's cool. But the guy you cast your votes for, he's acting like a tool. And we're up here trying to make it work, and we do our polite best. But we're asking TRUMP WTF. These TARIFFS ain't gonna help no one. The USA was once our BFF, but now that's done. EXPORGS, they drive our industries. So TARIFFS, FFS indeed.
Oh, Sean is always so good, so clever at those topical songs, and that was no exception for sure.
That was a good
Very
one.
funny. Thanks for that, Sean. It was a good laugh. Okay, so let's talk about the long-range forecast, because there's some weather on the way, like some messy weather.
Potentially, yeah. Going to keep an eye on the forecast over the next couple of days. Until we get there, though, we're going to hang on to some cold air. Let's take a look at what's going on for our Saturday. So we'll see that area of low pressure move off. That's what's going to bring those warm temperatures tomorrow. And then in behind that, those temperatures will drop, as is always, and we'll see some flurries or onshore flurries develop again for those of you on the west coast. And then we've got some snow continuing for coastal areas of Labrador. But other than that, it's going to be a pretty lovely Saturday afternoon. Our temperatures won't be quite as cold as they have been over the last little bit, only into the minus single digits, just barely below zero for the Avalon, a little more towards the mid-single digits, mid-minus single digits for the west coast, and then up across Labrador, minus single digits with the exception of Lab West, where you will sit around minus 18. As we head into Sunday, though, this is when our next weather maker will move in late day at this point. So the first part of the day actually looks beautiful. Again, temperatures really not moving a whole lot. Minus single digits, mid-minus single digits for the west coast, and then temperatures across Labrador will sit into the minus teens and even minus 20s for those of you in Lab West. So what's going to happen? I showed you this yesterday, the model track comparison, just to give you an idea of what I look at over the course of the week. So just paying attention to where the models have the center of area of low pressure. As we head into Monday morning, there's a bit more agreement than there was yesterday, but you can still see the timing is a little off, but we're definitely going to have to pay attention to that forecast, because if we take a look at what the European model is saying through Sunday evening and into Monday morning, it definitely has that area of low pressure offshore. When that happens, we get into the heavier snow for the Avalon, and at this point it looks like the eastern half of the island will see something with this system. It could come with significant snow, it could come with some blizzard conditions, and it could come with some strong winds. So we're definitely going to have to pay attention to that forecast, especially if you have any travel plans. And are we going to see the first snow day in the east? We'll definitely have to pay attention to the forecast. After that, things will cool right back down to the minus single digits for Tuesday. For Labrador, or for the rest of the island rather, we're looking at temperatures in the minus single digits, minus double digits by the time we get into Tuesday for western Newfoundland. And then for Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures back down to the minus double digits for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and into the minus 20s for Lab West. our weather photo of the day taken in Hopedale. This is a beautiful shot, of his cold ride into work over the sea ice there. Yeah, Wayne shared that photo with us. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that is stunning. So peaceful, and the colors are beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Wayne.
Nice sunrise.
Yeah. And a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on the forecast. You just, the potential for a snow day maybe on Monday.
It's exciting for people. It's only Thursday, though. We got to pay attention.
Yeah. Never a snow day for us.
No, I have to make it here somehow.
Yeah, for sure. Not even Snowmageddon would keep us away.
It does not.
All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.